I've noticed a lot of people hear the words rate your music and album of the year, and they immediately enter what I would describe as a fight or flight state. A borderline anger exudes from their pores, a frown that simply can't be turned upside down. So I thought today I'd explore some alternatives. The critics. Chances are you just physically recoiled, but don't worry. I did too. I thought I'd check out some critic reviews of some of my favorite albums of all time and see if these people actually have any idea what they're talking about, like they want us to think, or if they're just as fraudulent as I kind of expect them to be. Without further ado, let's hop in to perhaps the most egregious review I've seen in my young life. Pitchfork gave Tool's Lateralus a 1.9 out of 10. They say the problem is Tool defines opus as taking their defining element, wanking sludge, and stretching it out to the maximum digital capacity of a compact disc. It's a little early for me to pull out this line, but I'm going to say this is the dumbest shit I've ever read, maybe in my entire life. I understand Tool is not for everyone, believe me, but to describe Lateralus, by far Tool's most introspective and complex record, as wanking sludge, just displays an actual heinous disconnect from reality, I believe, especially when you read the rest of Mr. DiCrescenzo's review here. He says, Undertow, Tool's 1993 debut LP, took studio skill and overtrained chops to meddle with aplomb. Bit of a word salad, but I think he's saying he liked Undertow, which if we were to directly compare the wanking of sludge on these two records, Undertow wanks significantly more sludge. It just comes off as slightly disingenuous to prefer the actual quality of Undertow. I can understand enjoying it more from a personal standpoint, but a quote objective music critic can't really get away with that, I don't think. He also gave Morrissey's You Are the Quarry an 89, so sit with that for a second. Just kind of a poor review. And my inspiration for the video. On to the next. Under the Radar gave Twin Fantasy by Carseed Headrest a 4 out of 10. This review comes directly from a grown man that calls himself Matt the Raven, so do with that what you will. He says, instead of building off the buzz and promise of Teens of Style and Teens of Denial that show a marked development in songwriting, Carseed Headrest decided to release a bit of a revisionist history showing off the band's potential, but also its shortcoming. Not the worst line I've ever read. I think I could respectfully disagree with the review so far, but it gets worse. Hang on. But while it shows flashes of brilliance, it also exposes Toledo's early shortcomings as a songwriter. Filled with angst and the genuine spunk of Toledo's frantic guitars, Twin Fantasy is also erratic and inconsistent, regularly shifting gears from soft and slow to loud and fast. Mr. Raven, sir. That's the entire fucking point. For those unfamiliar, this is a 2018 remake of the original Twin Fantasy record, which was released in 2011 by Will Toledo alone, who at the time was 19 years old. All the lyrics remain the same, so the angst and the anxiety and kind of the franticness of this record is what kind of makes it what it is. Its defining trait. Lyrically, it feels like a direct view into his psyche. It's so sporadic because it's incredibly authentic and kind of genuine. There's just not much of a filter on these tracks, and that's, again, the magic. And inconsistent, motherfucker, where? There's actually not a bad song on this project, talked about him. No skips from me. Not a fan of the review. NME gave Alice in Chains Unplugged a 3 out of 10. This might actually be the worst one, I'm not sure, but it deserves recognition. Where others have used these unplugged sessions to show off their musical virtuosity, Alice in Chains inadvertently exposed their lack of the same. At times they sound like adolescents struggling with some unfamiliar sheet music. You can practically hear them reading the notes. Nutshell, Heaven Beside You, and Rooster are all wrapped in the uninspired moody swaths you'd expect from The Mission at their most lumbering, and the low-key instrumentation makes singer and lyricist Lane Staley all too audible and shows just how much of a sixth-form poet he is. That was some of the dumbest shit I've ever read, for real this time. Where to begin? I guess I could start with the fact that this lovely review is in fact from across the pond in hell, or as some know it, England. More importantly, however, to critique not only the lyrical talent of a man who has likely changed tens of thousands of lives with his words, but to also critique the vocal talent of, again, one of the greatest to ever touch the microphone. Just feels like borderline invalid criticism to me. As for the performance itself, I guess if I squint really hard, I can understand his point regarding the track listing itself. I do think there could have been a more unique set list, but it doesn't lower the quality of the songs selected themselves. They're all still kind of bangers. It's his most rational sentence, but still not great for sure. To also call Nutshell an uninspired, moody suave just kind of voids your credibility, I think. Again, it's a song that, while incredibly simple, has a genuinely devastating vibe that I haven't really heard recreated since, especially the unplugged version, which just adds an all too vivid reality to the state of Lane at the time. It's a crazy review, I don't get it at all. I did not have fun. The Rolling Stone gave Ween's Quebec a 4 out of 10. This one doesn't shock me for sure. I'm fully aware Ween is a comically large pill to swallow, but I was more upset with Mr. Christian Horde's reasoning here. He says, it's not easy being Ween. True. Despite being an ode to the mood-enhancing drug Zoloft, Quebec finds Dean and Jean Ween toning down the adolescent jokiness. Unfortunately, they don't have enough good musical ideas to pick up the slack. The acoustic rockers Chocolate Town and Tried and True show off their songwriting skills, but those inspired moments are surrounded by a glut of slow ambient numbers. A glut of slow ambient numbers? Where, man? I don't know about you, dear viewer, but I hear glut and I think of at least more than one. No, in all honesty, I kinda get it, or at least I did, until the songwriting itself was insulted here. It's a difficult critique to make of Ween, I think. Oh, they're certainly not writing the most straightforward shit of all time. It's the genuinely unmatched creativity that gives this band a special place in my heart and the edge over a lot of other artists. Every Ween album is discernibly different from the one that preceded it, and Quebec being the last record, The Cockroach Doesn't Exist, is kind of the grand conclusion to all of those ideas. It has the ambient tracks, it has the high-energy God-Ween Satan-like tracks, it has the beauty we found on White Pepper. It's the culmination of all the creativity the band has been manifesting over these years. The songwriting just can't be the problem here. And as for the lack of, quote, adolescent joke, it's the band's most personal and quite honestly dark record. It still has these brief moments of whimsy, but this album is unlike any other Ween record in its attempt to intertwine all of these concepts while still telling the story they wanted to tell. It's a masterpiece, and Christian Horde is a dumbass. The Guardian gave Deftones' White Pony a 2 out of 10. This review comes directly from Tom Cox. I laughed at that. He says, Deftones are unspeakably bad, not because of their constipated sluggishness or their abattoir unlistenability, but because beneath the hateful, grubby topsoil of their third album, there's nothing but void. Nothing that hints beyond the lazy psychology of oblivion. Not because White Pony is radical that the cheerful, orthodox world will reject it. It's because it's crud. Dear viewer, have you ever read something so dumb you gotta take a brief stroll around the block, maybe just to get some fresh air? Where to begin? Sluggishness, as a word to describe Deftones' White Pony, genuinely, and I mean this, implies to me, again, I'm serious, that this guy, I don't think, heard this album. Honestly, this review didn't really say much at all. It's really just a word salad, just a bunch of jargon, and maybe the dumbest review I've seen, period. At least some of the other goofballs kind of explain their take. They elaborate, like that Quebec review. I disagreed, but I could almost see where he was coming from. This one doesn't really offer an opinion, minus the word salad. The only point I can really address is the final point he attempted to make, in which he said the orthodox world would reject White Pony. How did that go, Mr. Cox? Didn't age all that well, did it, Mr. Dick and Balls? Thank you for your time. Uncut gave System of a Down's Toxicity a 3 out of 10. This is a shorter one, but I thought it was really funny, and I thought you should hear it. Toxicity is virtually unlistenable. Thrash metal. What? Splintered into a million pieces by unnecessary time changes, topped off with excruciatingly theatrical vocals. I don't even have anything to say. I think they covered all the bases. Entertainment Weekly gave Ween's The Mollusk a 5 out of 10. Another short one. The article seems to have been deleted off the internet. I don't know why. But we're left with a brilliant excerpt from the super genius known as Rob Brunner, who says, unfortunately, Ween doesn't seem to have any fresh ideas. I'm actually just going to stop right there for a second. The problem with the Mollusk is their lack of fresh ideas. That's what he said. I just slammed my head into my desk as hard as I could. Anyway, he goes on to say, there are a few moments of inspired lunacy. But too often Ween falls back on the juvenility and scatological humor. Profound. Again, it sounds like the take of someone who maybe didn't hear the whole record. I kind of picture him reading the song titles and he saw Waving My Dick in the Wind, which, while ridiculously titled, is a genuinely fun listen. A lot of the other songs in this record are far more interesting lyrically and even thematically. While the record is riddled with whimsical shit, there's several tracks that kind of tug on the heartstrings. And once again, that's the magic of the record. Every song beautifully fits this nautical theme they were going for, yet they all sound unique and polished in different ways. They all have their own creative identity. To undermine the creativity of these two goofballs is a criticism I genuinely can't accept. You can say it sounds like shit, but to say it's due to the lack of creativity and fresh ideas is silliness. NME gave The Downward Spiral by 9 Inch Nails a 4 out of 10. This one's real wise. They say, The Downward Spiral is vintage Trent Reznor, but the paranoid rants and serial killer prowls of Pretty Hate Machine have been blown up to big budget dimensions. The scale here may be more cinematic than previously, but Reznor still only has 2 speeds, menacing croon or demented howl. Really? That's what we're critiquing here, is the vocals? I'm not going to come out and say he delivers some jaw-dropping shit on this album. In fact, I think the criticism is valid. How that results in a 4 out of 10, that I can't figure out. Musically, and especially for its time, this project is incredible. Not to even mention the story it tells, and how concise and clear that story is, how powerful that story is for people, and how the album consistently evolves and becomes more and more mechanical as the protagonist delves into madness. It's just incredibly profound. The review just completely removes all nuance from the record and boils it down to the vocals exclusively. What are we even talking about? Dear God. NME gave Alice in Chains' Dirt a 2 out of 10. NME's third appearance on the list, and perhaps their most profound one. I'm actually going to come out and say from the bottom of my heart, Mr. John Harris, You're a dumbass. He says, and this is a single-line review, his only thoughts. It wouldn't be much of a surprise if this album was found to contain subliminal satanic messages. I'll let you sit with that for a second, and we'll move on. Rolling Stone gave Pink Floyd's Animals a 4 out of 10. This one's really funny too, actually. It's an article reviewing all of the Pink Floyd records, and in the wise words of Sabo, I'm not reading that shit. But allow me to read you the entire section regarding Animals. Buckle up, this is going to take a minute. Animals was just a laser show looking for a soundtrack. There's one ironclad rule of rock and roll. It's that songs about pigs are always lame. That's it, that's the whole review. 4 out of 10 because of the pigs, of course. Fuck pigs, I guess. Valid criticism, truly. What would we do without the scholars of Rolling Stone magazine's guidance? The Sydney Morning Herald gave Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness by the Smashing Pumpkins a 2 out of 10. This one comes right off a newspaper where they say, reactionary, overblown, and too smug by half. The worth of Smashing Pumpkins has, quite frankly, always eluded me. Ever their supposed finest moment, the power ballad Disarm, was simply a what about me for the grunge generation. I'll pause there for a second. What the fuck does that have to do with this? I'll tell you, dear viewer, just about nothing. But what we did learn is that the reviewer himself explicitly stated in the first run-on sentence of his paper that he just doesn't like the band, and then dives into a song that doesn't even appear on this record. Brilliantly done, I'd say, but Mr. Shane Danielson isn't done quite yet. No. In some ways, though, it merely hinted at the horrors contained herein. And this is clearly Billy Corgan's attempt to craft a magnum opus, a definitive statement. Thus we find a string of lead-in melodramatic ballads, portentous, fussy metal of a kind that would embarrass Rush and some quite unforgivable rock titles, all topped by Corgan's petulant whine, still one of the most abrasive, unpleasant sounds in rock, like a cat trapped in a handbag, crashingly dull, catastrophically awful. Bit of a word salad there again, arguably even a nothing sandwich buried within that word salad, but I won't say it's all hootenanny here. I've heard and can accept criticism for Billy Corgan's vocals. I think it's a valid point to make. They are fairly whiny. Starting in the big 2000, they become almost completely intolerable. That being said, everything else he said was pretty much hootenanny. He didn't really say that much, to be honest, again. It just kind of sounds like a hate comment on YouTube you'd scroll past trying to find timestamps for the album you're listening to. Old man yells at cloud kind of situation. He just kind of complains about the subject matter of the songs and the song titles. Okay, man. As for the subject matter of really all art, it's completely subjective. What clicks with you may not click with me, and vice versa. But musically, there's incredibly well-written shit here, and that's kind of undeniable. This album clearly didn't click with him, and that's okay. But to so brashly criticize a record from a band you already previously disliked with genuine mumbo-jumbo in a newspaper is perhaps the final message I'd like to leave you, dear viewer, in this video. Here it is. Music critics truly, and I can't stress this enough, have no fucking idea what they're talking about. Me neither, and you neither. It's art. There is no right answer, and that's the cool part. That's all. I hope you enjoyed. Maybe I'll do this again. This was pretty funny. Anyway, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.